Hello and welcome to the second video in our Class 58 enhancement project. Here we have the 58034 Bassett Law. It's the old Hornby version from the 1980s, so it's a good 30 odd years old. In the previous video, if you haven't seen it, we did some extra painting details. So we colored this in silver, we repaired the railing along the side here and painted it gray. We used the kind of a watered down paint technique to blacken the grills here on either side. We also used our paperclip technique to dip it in white paint to paint the hand railings and add the paint detail down here and here on both sides. We also added this black paint at the top here and down the bottom on the buffer beam over here on the multiple workings, and we colored the multiple workings orange. And you can see we did the same thing on the other side. I also cleaned up the windows. I took some rubbing alcohol and the 70% kind and used that to clean out the windows. So what we're going to do today is basically weather it up based on some photos of the locomotive that we found. Keep in mind this was used primarily for moving coal in the 80s, so the locomotive would get quite dirty. So to weather it, we're going to use some wet wipes, and those are just to adhere the weathering powders, a couple of paintbrushes, and I'm using Ames weathering powders, but you can use any kind of brand that you can get your hands on. We're using medium gray, grimy black, and a medium earth, which is kind of a sandish kind of color. We're also going to take a piece of chalk as well and use that for coloring in the white sections. So this locomotive, in terms of weathering, typically had above the buffer beam here on the right would have some black spot there. The windows were typically grimed out, and then you'd have calcium deposits, I guess, from water or rain leaking coming down here, so you'd have white leaking down and faded across the front here. You also have the white leaking down from the other window seals as well, and these windows would typically be heavily weathered as well. Along the side here, you obviously have from the exhaust fans and the engine fan here, that would be weathered, and you'd streak it down based on the direction the loco is moving. You'd have runoff from the roof down the sides here, and obviously some grime along the bottom and so on. Now you will have noticed that I've taken out the bogies. We're going to weather the bogies separately, just so we don't foul up the motor. So the first step, and you've seen me do this before, is just to take the wet wipes and select the motion that you want to have thing down from. So what I usually do is I start at the roof, and I just with my finger wipe it down this way. And move it along a little bit, and just do it in a downward motion. And then along the bottom here, it doesn't really matter. I'm just going to get it wet so the powders adhere to it a little bit better. In the front, we're going to do the same thing, just downward motion, and then we'll take another wet wipe. This also has the added advantage of cleaning the loco while you're at it. Now remember, you'll lose about 50% of the weathering powders when you do the spray varnish, so it's okay to go a little crazy with it, and then you can clean it up later. And obviously, if you don't like the result, the nice thing with the weathering powders is you can just use a wet wipe to clean it off and start again. Okay, so we've gotten that sorted out. So what we're going to do next is we're going to start off with the chalk, actually. So I'm going to take the chalk, and you're just going to use the corner of it. And having looked at some of the photos, you basically had some runoff like this. And you can see there the type of effect that we're getting with the chalk. You can just do this a couple of times until it gets kind of effect that you're looking for. Like so. Okay, and you just top it off and the chalk should come off pretty easily. And so the same thing with the front. The front had runoff typically around here on the window. Seals, and then it kind of came down and it was faded a little bit. And remember, you're not looking for a lot of this, you're just looking to get just that kind of hint of the white on the loco, and so you can just sort of brush it off. You can see there it's got the sort of effect we're looking for. And we'll do the same thing on the other side. So apologize, I keep moving thing off camera. Alright, so we'll do the other side. You can see the same thing. So I put it down here, you can see, just do it this way. Take the brush, like so, and then finally, oh, we're done on the side. Okay, it looks like we're good. It's this one I have to do. So same deal, just maybe too hard. Don't press too hard, but don't press too lightly either, otherwise the chalk won't work very well. And there you have it. So you can see it's got that kind of white kind of phase in there. Alright, so next thing is going to be actual weathering powders. So we're going to start with the gray weathering powders. And for the gray weathering powders, there wasn't too much that I saw in the photos. You just want to put some around the side here, so it's like that. That works pretty well. And then there was just a little bit on the front here, right here. Just kind of giving it that around the buffer beams a little bit. Like so. So next up is to do this side. Alright, so we'll put it down. Take the powders like this and just give it a bit of a go over like so. And then down the other end. And mostly the gray you want to get on the kind of yellow kind of part of the cab area here. and down in here a little bit. And if we flick it over, we can do the other side here. Again, above this right hand buffer, it had the most of it, and then just kind of gray out the buffer beams just a little bit. Like so. Just kind of looking for that kind of dust sort of effect. Alright, so now that we've got that done with the gray, we're going to move on to the black. Actually, what I might do is we'll move on and use the medium earth first, because that's that kind of lower part of the locomotive kind of weathering that you want to do. So weather down here, and don't worry too much, it's going to look a little heavy for the start, but like I said, once the spray goes on there, it's going to get rid of most of this. And I'm just going to add somewhere in the cab area here, and then down along the bottom. Now the reason we're using the medium earth is it gives that kind of weathered kind of look to it. You know, if you maybe haven't washed your car in a while, it's gone through the rain a few times, it has that sort of just grayish, kind of brownish kind of dirt on it. Just dulling it down, and so that's what we're doing here with this. Now remember not to go up too high with the dirt. You probably only want to go about this high on the loco itself. You can see it's already starting to take shape. And by making this kind of a splatter kind of pattern that I'm doing with the weathering powder with the brush, it kind of gives that kind of splattered look, like it's come up from the rails or splashed up on the logo itself. Okay. Alright, so I'm going to go ahead and do the other side, and then we'll show you how to add the black weathering. Okay, you can see here that we've got the rest of the brown medium earth weathering powders on it. So we're going to just make sure we haven't scratched with the powders on the other side. Nope, we have not. And so next we're going to just very carefully apply some of the offshoot of the brown powder just down the front here, just to add some color to it. Particularly in and around the sort of cab window area here. You want to dull those down. And what we're going to do is we're going to add the windscreen wiper effect with the so we want to get more powder on the windows here, and then we can use the Q-tip to sort that out, and then we'll do the same thing on the other side. Just remember, this is a very messy sort of task, so don't be too surprised if you get weathering powders all over the place. So I can see here I've got a sheet of paper underneath this, so I don't get it all over the workbench. Okay, So final step is going to be the black weathering powders. So far so good with this stuff. So this here is the front of the locomotive. It's got the fans there on the front. So we're gonna kind of streak it this way, as it's most likely the way the locomotive is moving. And remember, you're gonna have two aspects with the black. You're gonna have the oil and kind of exhaust fumes from the loco itself. So we're gonna cake on the weathering powders up here quite a bit. And we'll go from there. So like I said, we're going to cake them on pretty good, especially around these exhaust fans. So before people get on my case with the less is more thing, that is the case with some locomotives, but with the class 58 here, like I said, it was typically used quite heavily in for coal transportation, so it would get pretty dirty. And like I said, with the weathering powders, you're going to lose about half of them. When you apply the varnish. And you see here what I'm doing is just trying to get the black weathering powders down here just to stripe or kind of streak just a little, so it has that sort of runoff effect that we're looking for. Okay, so there you have one side. You can see it's turning out pretty well. So what I'm going to do next is I'm going to go ahead and do the other side, and then I'll show you how to do the boogies, and then we'll go spray it, and you can see the end result on the layout. It should at least give you some kind of effect there that you see. Alright, so next up is the bogies. So we'll set that aside, and we'll go take apart the bogies. Now the bogies have pickups and stuff associated with them, so what you're going to want to do is actually remove this from the plastic, and to do that there's a notch right there and a notch right there, and so usually you can just pull back and hopefully breaking it pop that out. Well, maybe not. So give me a few minutes, I'll see if I can pop these out, and we'll show you how to do it. To get them off, you actually have to just, like I said, with that little notch was, but you had to pull them back a little bit harder than I was willing to pull them. So I did eventually get them both off, and it took about a minute or two. So next up is just to weather them, and we're not going to weather these with the black. We're going to go ahead and weather it with the earth tones. So we're going to use the medium earth, and since I've already dipped out in black, we're going to go ahead and get a new paintbrush. And with this, it's pretty straightforward. You're just going to go down the sides here. So you start at the top and just work your way down, and brushing off as much of the excess as you can. Like I said, once you spray these, you'll lose 50% or so of the weathering powders. Now, just to be clear, this isn't a rust color, it is a medium earth color. It does kind of look like it might be rust, but what you're going for is getting that sort of grime that comes on off the dust, comes off the logo. And we're going to do the same thing on the other side. I'll show you again, just top here, just work your way down as much as possible. And really all you're doing with this is just looking to discolor it a bit. You can see there, it'll look the part when it's done. Okay, so that's one bogey done. I usually also weather the coupling here, just to get the same effect. Alright, so I'm going to go ahead and do the other one, and we'll spray it. And I'm not going to show you how to spray it because the type of spray that I use is the Tester's aerosol spray, and you get it about 6 inches from the logo, and you basically start at the starting point. So for his, this is the start. It would be weathered, and we go this way along the top and then along the other side. Unfortunately, the way the Tester stuff works is it puts an awful lot of the varnish in the air. So one, you probably should wear a mask when you spray it, but two, it can get on the camera lens. And if I film it far enough back so it doesn't get on the camera lens, it really isn't, you know, giving you any kind of thing. You just see me with a spray can going back and forth. So basically, spray can this way, about 6 inches, 90-degree angle, along the top, along the back, once in the front, once in the back. And likewise with the bogies, you just have to do 1-2 passes with those, and you're good to go. So I'm going to go weather the other bogie, and then go spray this, and then we'll show it to you working on the layout.